Hi friends, in this video we will be creating a to-do list React application without a backend, just a user interface perspective, right from the scratch. So later going forward in our next video we will be creating a node server and try to connect this front end to the node server so that the data will be persistent and will not be deleted even if the project is closed or stopped. So as a first step, we will be creating a React project. So we are using a white build tool. So we have to give a project name. We have to select the user interface which we need. JavaScript. That's it. The project is created. A spelling mistake. Right. Once the project is created, we have to just run the command npm install to install all the dependencies. It will take some time. The command is completed. The basic project is now created. Now we will just run this project. So the project is now running. Now we are going to create the to-do list app in this project. So first we will just plan on how are we going to create the user interface. I am going to add three text boxes. One is title, one is description, and the last one is due date. Three text boxes. And finally there will be a button here, and that button will represent add button, and on the bottom of the screen there will be a list of each to do items. One, if there is two and three items, the items will be displayed like this, horizontally as well as vertically. This is going to be our plan. So first let us design the user interface. Let's go to this file app.jsx. This is the place where we are going to write our entire code. We will remove all the existing code. Right. So there is a function named app, and that function is going to return a HTML component. See, now it is empty. We have removed all the code. Now we are going to add few lines of code. We are going to add three text boxes or input box. So we had our text box here, enter title. Enter description and enter due date. For now, we will just create the due date field also as a string text box, not the date, for the easiness of learning. So in order to bring the user interface little bit uh, decorative or attractive, we need to add few CSS codes. I have the CSS codes with me. Let us cover the CSS explanation in a separate video. For now, we will just add our CSS code here. So we have a theme now. We will just now focus on the HTML code here. Let's add button. And we will add one more CSS class to this div. We will give a title. So I think this is now come up to a clean, a little bit attractive look comparing to the previous one. That's it. So now we will we will proceed adding the state variables to store the values. So we will create 3 or 4 state variables. Use state of. So I'm going to create 4 variables because we have 3 fields. One is title, description and due date, and one more field should be there which is not a field. One more parameter should be there that will have to mark whether this task is completed or not. So we'll be adding one more state variable for that also. So a task should have 4 parameters. One is title, description, due date, and whether this is checked, which means checked for completed or not. If there will be a checkbox, if the checkbox is ticked, then it is completed. If it is not ticked, then it is not completed. These are the 4 values that we are going to play around with. Now we will add 3 functions that will help us to manage this data, these separate state variables. Handle title of E, what we will do is we will create a function and then we will tie this function to that specific input field. On change, we will just tie up that function. So whenever some text is changed in this text box, this handle title function will be called, and that function will set the title state value to the value that is given in the text box. That is what we have written. So what we will do is we will just do a console log statement to see what is set in this title state variable. So till now we have created a user interface with 3 field and a button. Then we have created 4 state variables and created only one function for one state variable, and we have tied that function to that specific input box. Now we will see what output we are getting. We will have a console on the side to see the output. Right. Now I'm just trying to change the value. See, we will create a similar function to all the other two state variables also. Function handle description of e description of handle due date of e set due date of e dot value. Now we will tie these two functions as well to the input boxes. On change, it should be handle description, and here as well on change handle due date. So we haven't added a console statement to other two text boxes, and that is why it's not displaying. So you can notice that one character is missing on the every console statement. That is because we have set the value, set the state value, and we have immediately printed. But we have to use the use effect function to find whether the state values. We have to use the use effect function to get the latest update of the state value. Otherwise, we will get the previous state of the value. Now we will add one more state variable to store the entire task to the local storage. We will use an arrow function. So I told in the beginning of the video that we are going to use the local storage, browser storage for storing this to-do list, but later in next video we will be connecting this user interface with node server and the database. But for now We will be storing every data to the local storage. Get item, local storage at get item of, we'll have to give a name to. So we are just getting the value from local storage and storing it in a variable. So this set to do function is simply getting the value from local storage and just storing it in state variable named to do. Simple. That's it. Now we will write one more function to store this to do value to the local storage when this to do variable state variable is updated or changed. There is something called use effect function. So what is the use of this function? Whenever a state variable is changed or updated, this will be triggered. So we will use an arrow function here for this. Local storage dot set item of to do. We'll use the same name that we have used here, to do comma json.stringify of to do. So this is the state variable, and the state variable will be saved to local storage in the name of this to do. So for reference, we will just console log of stringify for reference. We will add a console statement here. So now we are set with all the state variables. Now it is our time to just add the logic for this add task button. We will write a function for this add task. If title and due date is there, then we have to store this value. Set to do of comma, we are creating a new object, title comma description comma due date comma set status value. That's it. So user will type the values in these text boxes, then click on add task. We have to call this function when we click on the add task. On click add data. So now when user clicks on this add task, this add data function will be called. That function will get the three values from the state variable, because already when already when the user types the value on the text boxes, that will be stored on the state variable named title, description, and due date. So once user clicks on add task, the three variables will be taken from the state memory, and an object will be created with the help of that, and that object will be added to existing to-do list. So what this set to do will do, I will show you. Set to do will just update the value of to do state variable with along with the newly added to do task. Once the state variable is updated, immediately use effect will be called, so that to do state variable will be updated to local storage of the browser. That's it. So we have implemented uh, a partial part of this project. User interface and user all the values will be stored on the state variable, and we have created a function to get the value from local storage and set the value to local storage. Then user clicks on this add task button. The values from the state will be taken and stored in the to do state variable, and that to do state variable will automatically updated to local storage using use effect function. What we will do is we will run and see whether while adding a value we will get the console log along with the newly added data. We have to do a small line of code here. Set title of, once the value is added, we'll have to reset the text box. Set description, set due date. Right. Now we can go to the browser and see what exactly we are having. Clear. Right. See, in the to-do list we are having an array. Inside that array we have an object. That object title is task 1, description, due date, and checked status value is empty. We have added last state value here. See, we have added the last state value here, and that value is by default we have added empty string. We will add a logic for that. We have removed the console log statements. Even though I have reloaded the page, I'm having the list here because we have stored it in local storage. Let's add one more task. And due date. You can see we have the array, and that array have two objects. One is this one, the other one is task 2 with all the parameters. So now we are able to create an array with all the tasks that are added from the user interface. Now the next step is bringing this to do task in our user interface as a list. So we will create a card like user interface here to display the list, to do list. So we have created an separate div tag here for just displaying the list. To do dot map of array function. So we are going to get all individual values of this to-do list and get the value and index, and we are going to populate it into the individual card. We are just populating the value title in h2, that is heading 2. Value dot description, due date. So it should be slash div and slash b. Instead of that, we have given before the slash. That was the error. And what we have done is we have just got all the to-do list value and mapped to, using the map function, we have just created the HTML content with value title, description, and due date. Let's see what we are seeing in the screen. See, I will add one more task. Let's see, that is appearing. See, so whenever we add a task in our list, the new task will be added and that will be displayed in the user interface. Now let's proceed to the next step. We will add a validation. If user does not enter any of these values, we will just print alert please enter the values. See, so if I click without adding a data, that will display. Right. Now we will add a checkbox to this user interface where user can click on the checkbox to make this task completed. /do type equal to, it is going to be checkbox checked equal to value dot checked status value. So we remember that we have added the fourth state variable that is called checked status value. If the checked status value is having something, then this checkbox should be ticked. Otherwise, it will not be ticked. So we have to implement on change, that we will do now. On change, we will create an arrow function handle checked of index comma value. So we are passing the index as well as the value, and we will process in the function that we are going to create now. We will create a function in the name of handle checked now, and we will add the implementation. So input type, and we will add a span called see. Now we have added a checkbox on all the tasks where user can just click on this to make this task as complete. Now we will have to just create this handle checked function. Handle checked checked status value is going to be a string called checked, and we will just update the values. So in this handle checked function, we are just changing the value of checked status value of the specific task that is clicked. So we have updated that specific task alone. Now we have to update this value to the to-do state variable. Only then that will be reflected to the user interface and also in the state and the local storage. So we are just getting the to-do value. Set to-do of updated to-do. That's it. Now let's consider we have one task that is incomplete. We are going to click on complete, and that will be completed. We can see the objects also. See, so we have all the objects with this checked status value as checked and nothing as empty, which means all the task is completed. Now we will just write a code to add delete button on each of the tasks, so that if we don't want this task, we can just click on delete. The delete button should come after the due date. So class name is going to be delete on click so we are just calling handle delete function, which we will write it now. So we have just created a delete button alone and not the implementation. You can see delete task button is there. We will just do the stylings later. So now we will just write handle delete function, so that when user clicks on this delete button, the task should be deleted. Function handle delete of value. So we are just sending that value to the delete button. What we will do is we will just delete the value. Get the to do array, find the index of the selected item or index of the item that delete button clicked. Then use splice function to delete it from the to do state variable. This is what we are going to implement. So first get the to do array. Updated to do equal to then find index of item. We are using arrow function. Item dot title equal to value dot title. Description value dot description, and item dot due date equal to value dot due date. So we are comparing each and every value of to do with the clicked value. So delete clicked value. So the value which matches with the clicked value, that index will be stored in index of selected. Now we will use splice function to delete that specific value. Updated to do dot splice of index of selected comma 1. So this will delete one value on the selected index. Once that is done, we have to update the to do state variable, so that will update in state and also update in the local storage. Now the delete functionality is also completed. Let's see the output. You can see we have 4 tasks. I am going to delete task 3. So after that, we will not be having 4 values like this. We will have only 3. Task 1, 2 and 4. 3 will not be there. See, 3 is not there in user interface. Also in the object, you can see the difference between the selected object and not selected object. Task 1, 2, 3 and 4, and here 1, 2 and 4, which is 3 deleted. We can delete task 4, task 2, task 1. Finally, I am getting empty array, which means all the values are deleted. So we are almost completed with the 80% of implementation. One last thing left is if I click on completed here, this should not be displayed here, but this should not be also deleted. This should be on the background, and when I want to see it, I can see the list of completed task alone and list of pending task alone. We are going to do some changes with the UI. So along with the map, we are going to add one more filter. To do dot, so we are just adding one filter to the map. So along with all the data, that will just filter the data that is satisfying the condition that we are specifying here. Item equal to item dot checked status value not equal to checked. So we have used this checked value as lowercase, and same we are following here. So it will take all the values of to do, filter the items that with checked value, checked status value is not equal to checked, which means only pending task will be filtered, and then with that pending task list, it will create the user interface using this map. You will see the output. I'm going to add task 2 20, task 3 5. I'm going to just click on task 2 as completed, but it should not be deleted in the list in the array, but it should be hidden from the screen. See, we are still having task 1, task 2 and task 3, but in the user interface it is task 1 and 3, which means task 2 is completed. And also you can note that checked status value is empty for the first one and third one, and checked for the second one, which is hidden from the user interface. Now we will add one more button on which when we click on it, we will be seeing completed list. So for that, we are going to add one more state variable. Show completed data, comma set show completed data to state of. By default, we will add false, which means show completed data is false, which means we are just showing pending task. Now we are going to just use this state variable to display the completed task. We'll write a function show completed of set show completed data of, which means if this is false, it will automatically set it to true, and if this is true, it will automatically set it to false. So when we click on that button, it will just toggle from true to false and false to true. So it will toggle from displaying pending list and completed list alternatively. Now we are going to just add a button and tie that button with this function, where we can add it can be added below the add task button. Show completed task, and on click show completed. You can see the button. We will do a small change. Show completed data and show completed. And if not show completed data, then it is going to be show. So here it should be pending, and if it's not show completed data, then it should be show completed task. The logic is, if this is false, then this will not get displayed, which means if this is false, we'll have to show this completed task. So now we will just add one more logic to display the completed task. Here we will add one more logic here. Show completed data. If this is not show completed data, it will display the checked value. And we will just add same logic with a slight change. Instead of this not show, we will remove this, and here instead of not symbol, we will check whether checked value. For example, when this button is clicked, in that case it will display the not completed task. Again, when the same button is clicked, then this will become false because this value is toggled, and this will become true, and it will display the completed list of tasks. So now we will see the difference. I'm going to click show completed task. So we have made a small mistake here. The variable name. You can see. So now the pending tasks are displayed. Now I am going to click on show completed task. You can see the difference. Now the completed task is displayed. Again, if I want to see the pending task, I can click it. If I want to just delete this task one, I can do that. I can also add one more task. See, task 7, for example, 25, add task, show pending task. You will be having all the pending tasks. I'll have to change this task 7 to completed. I can do that. So 2 completed task and 2 pending task. I have to delete. I can do that. Show completed task. I can delete that task also. So we have created a to-do list with a clean user interface along with the completed and pending task displaying, but all the data has been stored inside this local storage of the browser. So this is just an exploration of front-end with React. Front-end to-do list app is with React. This is not yet complete because unless we store the data to a backend on a persistent database, it is not complete, it is not a complete project. So on the next video we will be creating a node server to store this data. So whenever we click on add task, this data will be sent to node server, and node server will store the data, and that will be displayed to the front end. So we will be having a connectivity between the front end and the back end. So we will complete the entire application along with the back end on the next video. Thanks for watching and keep supporting us.